Bride hides to discover Groom's secret, and what she hears makes her crumble. Olivia Bennet felt her heart racing as she hid behind the red curtain in the main hall of the Atlantic Bay Hotel. There were only 15 minutes left until she was to walk down the aisle, but something kept her from leaving. That's when she heard Ethan's voice coming from the private corner, where he was talking with Ryan and Jason, his best friends since high school. "Dude, I can't believe you're actually going to marry the little princess of the Bennet family," said Ryan, taking a sip of his beer. "I still remember when you made that crazy bet 2 years ago," added Jason, laughing softly. Olivia froze. "What bet?" Her fingers clenched the curtain fabric as she strained to hear. "Are you guys ever going to let that go?" replied Ethan, but his voice sounded different, more tense. "How could we forget, bro? You said you were going to win over the hardest-to-get heiress in New York in 6 months," Ryan continued. "And look where you are now, at the altar with her." The words hit Olivia like a punch to the stomach. The hardest-to-get heiress in New York? Win over? She brought her hand to her chest, trying to control her breathing, which was becoming increasingly difficult. "Is that why you approached her at that Heritage Foundation charity event?" asked Jason. "Guys, cut it out," Ethan said, but his voice came out choked. "Admit it, man. At first it was just for her family's money, right? How many millions does old man William have again?" Ryan insisted. Olivia squeezed her eyes shut. 2 tears streamed down her face, smudging the makeup that had taken 3 hours to get perfect. Had their entire story been a lie? The 2 years of dating, the family dinners, the trips together, the future plans. "Dude, you don't understand." Ethan tried to speak but was interrupted. "What don't we understand? You got what you wanted, the richest girl in New York head over heels for you, and today you're marrying her." Jason laughed. "Bet one, brother." "It didn't exactly happen like that," Ethan murmured. "Of course it did. You said yourself you were going to study her, find out what she liked, win her trust. And it worked perfectly," Ryan finished. Olivia felt nausea rising in her throat. Every word was a stab. She remembered their first meeting at the charity event perfectly. How attentive Ethan had been, interested in her social causes, in her family's foundation projects. All calculated, all planned. "You guys don't know what you're talking about," Ethan said, now with more firmness in his voice. "Yes, we do, man. You told us everything that night we were drinking in the Upper East Side. You said it was your chance to change your life, to get out of the struggle. The Bennet family has enough money to support their grandchildren," Jason teased. "And the girl is pretty too, right? Bonus points for you," Ryan added, and the two laughed. Olivia leaned against the wall, trying not to faint. Her legs were shaking so much she could barely stand. The wedding dress, which had made her feel like a princess that morning, now felt like lead on her shoulders. "Enough, you've gone too far," Ethan raised his voice. "Relax, man. There's nothing wrong with it. You played the game, and you won. Now you get to live well for the rest of your life." Ryan tried to calm him. "We just hope you don't forget your friends when you become William Bennet's son-in-law," Jason joked. Olivia couldn't take it anymore. She ran out from behind the curtain, trying not to make noise with her shoes on the marble floor of the hall. She needed air. She needed to think. She needed to figure out what to do with this devastating information. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. She reached the hotel garden, gasping for breath. The air in New York was warm even in the late afternoon, but at least there she could breathe. Her hands trembled as she tried to organize her thoughts. In 15 minutes, 200 guests would expect to see her walking down the aisle. But how could she do that knowing the entire relationship had been a farce? "Olivia, my dear, what are you doing out here?" The voice of Mrs. Elizabeth, her mother, startled her. Olivia turned around, trying to disguise the desperation in her eyes. Elizabeth Bennet, at 65, was an elegant woman who had faced many battles in life. Born in a time when women had few choices, she had built a respected business empire with her husband across all of Florida. "Mom, Olivia tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. "Honey, you're pale. And this makeup, it's smudged." Elizabeth approached, worried. What happened? "I need to tell you something," Olivia whispered, looking around to make sure they were alone. "Bridal nerves are normal, my dear. I was the same at my wedding. Your father—" "It's not that, Mom," Olivia interrupted her. "It's about Ethan. About him and about why he got close to me." Elizabeth looked at her more carefully, realizing something was really wrong. "What did you find out?" "He made a bet, Mom. A bet to win me over. For our millions." Olivia broke down, unable to hold back the tears any longer. Elizabeth felt her world collapse. During her daughter's 2-year relationship, she had grown to like Ethan. He didn't come from a wealthy family like theirs, but he had always shown character, honest work in New York's tourism sector, and genuine affection for Olivia. Or at least, that's what she had thought. "Tell me everything." Slowly, Elizabeth held her daughter's hands. Olivia recounted every word she had overheard. Elizabeth listened in silence, feeling an anger growing in her chest. It wasn't just for her daughter. It was also for herself, for having been deceived, for having started to see Ethan as a son. "My dear, are you sure about what you heard?" she asked, still hoping there was some misunderstanding. "I am, Mom. They talked about the bet, about our family's money, about how he planned everything." Olivia sobbed. 2 years of my life. 2 years believing he truly loved me. "And what do you want to do now?" "I don't know, Mom. How can I walk into that church knowing this? How can I say yes to someone who is only with me for our money?" Elizabeth took a deep breath. At 65, she had seen a lot in life. Betrayals, lies, people who got close to the family for their financial resources. But she never imagined it would happen to her only daughter on her wedding day. "Olivia, do you know the story of how I met your father?" she asked suddenly. "Mum, now is not the time for—" "Yes, it is. Listen to me," Elizabeth insisted. "When I met William, he wasn't rich either. He worked as a manager in a small store in downtown. My parents did not like the relationship at all. But Dad never lied about his intentions. He didn't lie, but he also didn't tell me everything from the start," Elizabeth revealed. "He told me years later that initially he became interested in me because I was the daughter of the owner of the construction company where he wanted to work." Olivia looked at her, surprised. "But that's different, Mum. You built a life together. You had true love." "Yes, because after a certain point the initial reason stopped mattering. What mattered was what we built together," Elizabeth explained. "What I'm saying is that perhaps you should talk to him before making any decision." "How can I talk? How can I look him in the face knowing it was all an act?" "Because you need the complete truth, not just pieces of a conversation you overheard from hiding," Elizabeth said firmly. "And because you deserve to know if at any point during these 2 years he felt something real for you." Olivia knew her mother was right, but the pain was too great. To feel used, deceived, betrayed in the worst possible way. "I can't, Mother. Not today. Not like this." "Then what do you propose? Calling off the wedding in front of 200 people? Humiliating the family and him as well?" "He humiliated me first," Olivia replied bitterly. "Did he really? Or are you discovering that things started one way and developed into another?" Elizabeth questioned. "My daughter, I saw you together these 2 years. I saw the way he looks at you, how he treats you. If all of that was an act, he's the best actor I've ever known. Or he's very good at deceiving naive women like me." Elizabeth sighed. She knew that at that moment any argument would be useless. Olivia was hurt, angry, disappointed. It was natural for her to think the worst. "Olivia, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you love Ethan?" "I don't know anymore, Mother. How can I love someone who lied to me from the very first day?" "That wasn't my question. I asked if you love the man you've known these 2 years, the man who made you laugh, who took care of you when you were sick, who stayed up late talking about your dreams." Olivia fell silent. It was impossible to deny that she loved him. Even with all that revelation, even with all the pain, a part of her still loved the Ethan she had known. "I do," she admitted in a whisper. "Then perhaps it's worth finding out if that man you love is real or not." At that moment, the church bells began to ring, announcing that there were 10 minutes left until the ceremony. Elizabeth looked at her daughter. "Have you decided what you're going to do?" Olivia dried her tears and tried to compose herself. An idea was beginning to form in her mind. A risky idea, but one that might give her the answers she needed. "I'm going to get married, Mother." "Are you sure?" "I'm going to get married, but not in the way he expects," Olivia said. And for the first time since she had discovered the truth, there was determination in her voice. "If he wants to play a game, we'll play, but by my rules." Elizabeth looked at her, recognizing in her the strength she herself had needed to use so many times in life. "What are you planning?" "I'm going to find out everything, every detail of this bet, every lie, every moment he was truthful with me." "And he won't know that I know anything," Olivia explained, "at least not until I decide what to do with that information." "That could be dangerous, my daughter. What if you discover things that will hurt even more?" "Then at least I'll know the whole truth. And it will be by my choice, not by accident," Olivia replied. They went back inside the hotel. Olivia asked for a few minutes in the bathroom to touch up her makeup and fix her hair. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a woman different from the one who had woken up that morning. She was still the same Olivia, but now there was something new in her eyes, a determination she didn't know she possessed. 15 minutes later, the church doors opened. Olivia entered arm in arm with her father, walking slowly towards the altar where Ethan was waiting for her. He looked elegant in his black tuxedo, his curly hair carefully styled. When he saw her, his face lit up with a smile that seemed genuine. But Olivia now saw everything with new eyes. Was that smile real, or just another piece of the performance? She maintained her composure, smiling at the guests, waving to family members, playing the part of the happy bride. When she reached the altar, Ethan took her hand and whispered, "You look so beautiful today, more beautiful than ever." Before, those words would have made her melt. Now she wondered if they were sincere or just part of the script he had created to win over the most difficult heiress in New York. "Thank you," she replied simply, keeping the smile on her face. Father Michael, who had known the family for decades, began the ceremony. Olivia tried to concentrate on the words, but her mind was elsewhere. She was observing every gesture of Ethan, every expression, looking for signs of what was real and what was an act. During the vows, when Ethan spoke of eternal love and companionship, she noticed his hands were trembling slightly. Was it normal nerves or guilt? When it was her turn to speak, she improvised words about truth and honesty, watching his reaction. For a moment, she thought she saw something flash in his eyes. Fear, regret. "If anyone present knows of any reason why this couple should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace," said Father Michael. Olivia felt her heart race. For a moment she thought about speaking up, about exposing everything right then and there in front of everyone, but she controlled herself. That wasn't how she wanted to do things. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Ethan leaned in to kiss her, and for an instant Olivia hesitated. But then she allowed the kiss, trying to decipher if there was love there or just obligation. The wedding reception was held in the hotel garden, decorated with flowers typical of Florida and a stunning view of the bay. The guests were enjoying themselves to the sound of a local band, while the newlyweds received congratulations. Olivia smiled and thanked everyone, but she was constantly observing. When Ryan approached to congratulate her, she paid extra attention. "Congratulations, Olivia. You look radiant," he said. "Thank you, Ryan. It's a very special day for me and for Ethan," she replied, watching his reaction. "Of course it is. You make a perfect couple. From day one I said you two would go far together." "From day one?" Olivia doubted that. Ryan had probably said other things on day one. "It's so nice to know you've always rooted for us," she said, smiling sweetly. When Jason approached, she applied the same strategy. "Jason, thank you for being here. I know you and Ethan have been friends for so long." "Since we were teenagers," he confirmed, "and I can say I've never seen him as happy as he is with you." "Really? Not even when you were both single and having your adventures?" Jason laughed a little awkwardly. "Oh, that was just kid stuff. After he met you, he changed completely. He even got boring, only talked about you," he joked. Olivia smiled, but internally she noted every word. He changed after he met her. or did he change to win her over? During the waltz, she and Ethan danced in the center of the room as the guests watched, moved. It was a beautiful, romantic scene, but for Olivia, every second was a test. "I can't believe we're married," Ethan whispered in her ear. "Neither can I," she replied, and this time she was being honest. She really couldn't believe she had married someone who might not truly love her. "Olivia, there's something I need to tell you," he said suddenly. Her heart raced. Was he going to confess? Was he finally going to tell her about the bet? "What is it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm. "It's about when we met, about how I approached you." Olivia stopped dancing for a second, but quickly composed herself. "Can we talk about this later? Today is our day to celebrate," she said, not feeling ready for that conversation yet. "Of course, you're right. Today is our day," he agreed, but she noticed relief in his voice. Relief at not having to tell her at that moment. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The party continued into the night. Olivia maintained the facade of the happy bride, but internally she was exhausted. Pretending not to know anything was proving more difficult than she had imagined. Every conversation, every gesture, every smile from Ethan was scrutinized for signs of sincerity or deceit. Around midnight, when many guests had already left, Olivia sat at one of the garden tables to rest her feet. Aunt Margaret, her mother's sister, and one of the most perceptive women she knew, approached her. "May I sit?" asked Margaret. "Of course, Aunt." Margaret was 68 and had spent her life observing people. She was known in the family for her ability to read between the lines of any situation. "How are you feeling, my dear?" "Tired, but happy," Olivia lied. Margaret made a sound that indicated she wasn't convinced. "You know, I've been watching you today." "Watching me?" "Yes. And I noticed you're different. I can't quite explain what it is, but there's something about you that wasn't there this morning." A chill ran down Olivia's spine. If Aunt Margaret had noticed something, it was possible others had too. "It must just be tiredness. It's been a very long day." "Olivia," Margaret took her hand, "I've lived 68 years in this world. I've been married twice, raised 3 children, faced wars, a dictatorship, economic crises. I've learned to recognize when someone is carrying a burden they shouldn't carry alone." Olivia looked into her aunt's eyes and almost broke down again. "Aunt, you don't have to tell me anything right now, but know that if you need to talk, I'll be here. And also know that marriage problems, no matter how bad they seem at first, can have solutions we don't imagine." "What do you mean?" "I've known couples who started for all the wrong reasons and ended up with the truest love I've ever seen. And I've known others who started with all the love in the world and ended in hatred. What matters isn't always how things begin, but how they develop and where they end up." Aunt Margaret's words echoed in Olivia's mind, even after she had left. Was there any truth to that? Was it possible that Ethan had actually fallen in love with her during these 2 years, even if he had other reasons at the beginning? Around 1 in the morning, the newlyweds finally said goodbye to the last guests. They would go up to the hotel's presidential suite, where they would spend their first night as husband and wife before departing the next day for their honeymoon in Hawaii. In the elevator, going up to the top floor, Ethan tried to start a conversation. "It was a perfect day, wasn't it?" "It was," she agreed. "Olivia, about what I wanted to tell you earlier." "Ethan, I'm very tired. Can we leave it for tomorrow?" She interrupted him again. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't decipher. "Of course, sorry for insisting." In the suite, Olivia locked herself in the bathroom for almost an hour, trying to organize her thoughts. In the mirror, she saw a woman dressed in a white silk nightgown, a gift from her mother for the honeymoon. It was supposed to be a magical night, the beginning of her life as a wife. Instead, she felt lost and confused. When she came out of the bathroom, she found Ethan on the balcony, looking out at the New York Bay. He had a melancholy expression she rarely saw. "Can't sleep?" she asked, approaching him. I was thinking, he replied without looking at her. About what? About how we got here. About everything that happened up until today. Olivia felt her heart race. Was he going to tell her? Finally. And what did you think? That sometimes life has strange ways of putting the right people in our lives, he said, turning to look at her. Olivia, I know I'm not the man your parents dreamed of for you. I know I don't have your family's money, the refined education, the social standing. That never mattered to me, she said, and it was true. I know. And that's why I love you so much, he said, holding her hands. You saw me as a man, not as a position at the bank or an important last name. His words sounded sincere, but Olivia could no longer trust her own judgment. How could she know if it was true or just another move in his game? Ethan, do you really love me? She asked directly. He looked surprised by the question. How can you ask that? Of course I love you. More than I ever thought possible to love someone. Since when? Since when what? Since when have you loved me? Since the first day we met? Ethan hesitated for a moment, and that hesitation felt like a stab to Olivia's heart. True love doesn't happen overnight, he finally said, but from the very first day, I knew there was something special about you. A diplomatic answer. Nothing definitive, nothing that completely reassured her or condemned him. They went to bed, but Olivia barely slept. She lay watching Ethan sleep beside her, trying to find answers in his relaxed face. He looked so young, so innocent when he slept. Was he capable of such a calculated betrayal? The next morning, as they had breakfast in their room, Ethan was more animated. Have you thought about Hawaii? It's going to be amazing. 15 days, just the two of us on the most beautiful beach in the United States. It will be, she agreed. But the thought of spending 2 weeks pretending she knew nothing terrified her. And after we get back, we can start looking for our house. I've already seen some interesting options on Park Avenue. Our house. Olivia wondered if he was planning a real life with her or just continuing the game until he had full access to the family money. Ethan, can I ask you a question? She said suddenly. Of course. Why did you choose to marry me and not someone else? He laughed, finding the question odd. What kind of question is that? I chose to marry you because I love you. But there must have been other women in your life. Why was I special? Ethan looked at her more seriously, realizing the question wasn't casual. Olivia, are you all right? Since last night you've been acting strange, asking questions you've never asked before. I'm fine, just curious. The other women in my life, well, there's not much to say about them. They were superficial relationships, nothing serious. Until I met you, I didn't even believe in true love. And what changed when you met me? Everything, he answered without hesitation. You made me want to be a better man. You made me want to build a family, have a stable life. You made me believe it was worth fighting for something. The words sounded beautiful, but Olivia could no longer accept anything without questioning it. Do you remember our first date? At the Heritage Foundation event? Ethan smiled, apparently relaxing. How could I forget? You were beautiful in that blue dress, speaking passionately about the social projects. I was enchanted by your dedication. And you didn't know who I was before that event? The question caught Ethan off guard. Olivia saw his expression change subtly. What do you mean? You didn't know I was William Bennett's daughter before you met me? Well, he stammered. Of course I knew. Everyone in New York knows the Bennett family, but that had nothing to do with my interest in you. A lie. Olivia was sure now. If it were true, he would have answered immediately, without hesitation. Are you sure? She insisted. Olivia, why all these questions? Did something happen? Ethan was visibly uncomfortable. Nothing happened. Like I said, just curiosity. But he didn't seem convinced. During the ride to the airport, he was quieter than usual. Olivia used the silence to think about her strategy. 2 weeks in Hawaii would be the perfect opportunity to discover more about Ethan's true feelings. Far from family, friends, and any distractions, she could observe him better. On the plane, while flying over the blue ocean, Ethan tried to recover the romantic mood. "I can't wait to watch the sunset at Waikiki Beach with you," he said, holding her hand. "It will be beautiful," she agreed, but her mind was far away. "Olivia, I want these 15 days to be perfect for us. I want them to be the real beginning of our life together." "I want that too," she lied. When they arrived at the inn in Hawaii, Olivia had to admit the place was paradise. The suite with an ocean view, the rustic yet elegant decor, the tropical flowers scattered across the balcony. Under normal circumstances, it would be the perfect setting for a honeymoon. "What do you think?" Ethan asked, seeing her expression. "It's perfect," she answered honestly. The place really was incredible. "Then let's enjoy every second," he kissed her, and for a moment Olivia almost forgot all her doubts. In the first few days, they followed the typical itinerary of a honeymoon couple: boat trips, snorkeling, walks on the beach, romantic dinners. Ethan was attentive, affectionate, and seemed genuinely happy. Several times, Olivia caught herself thinking that maybe she was wrong, that maybe she had misinterpreted the conversation she had overheard. But then she remembered Brian's exact words. "You said you were going to win over the most difficult heiress in New York in 6 months." There was no way to misinterpret that. On the 4th day, during a dinner on the beach, Ethan was particularly romantic. He had asked the restaurant to set up a special table in the sand, with candles and flowers. The moon was full, reflecting on the crystal-clear water. "Olivia, do you know these have been the 4 happiest days of my life?" he said, holding her hands across the table. "They really have been special days," she agreed. "I want this to be just the beginning. I want us to have thousands of days like this." "Ethan, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "If you didn't have any money, if you lost everything today, would you still stay with me?" He laughed. "What a crazy question. Of course I would. In fact, I'm the one here without money. You're the one who could leave me if you wanted someone from your social level." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" "If I lost everything, if my family lost the fortune, if we became poor, would you still love me?" Ethan became serious. "Olivia, where are these questions coming from? First at the hotel, now here. Are you worried about something? Just answer, please." "Of course I would love you. Money can't buy true love," he answered. But Olivia noticed he took a little longer to reply than he should have. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." "Olivia, you're worrying me with these questions. Do you think I married you for your family's money?" The direct question took her by surprise. "No," she lied. "I just want to be sure our love is solid." "Our love is the most solid thing in my life," he said, kissing her hands. That night, while Ethan slept, Olivia went out to the balcony. The sound of the waves was relaxing, but her mind was restless. His answers seemed sincere, but there was always a slight hesitation, a second of delay that made her suspicious. She picked up her phone, and even though she knew it was the middle of the night in the United States, sent a message to her mother. "Mom, are you awake? I need to talk." A few minutes later, the phone rang. "My dear, is everything all right? It's 3 in the morning here." Elizabeth's worried voice came from the other end of the line. "Sorry for waking you, Mom. I couldn't sleep." "What's happening? Is the honeymoon not going well?" "The place is perfect. The problem is me," Olivia sighed. "I couldn't stop thinking about what I found out. Every word he says, I keep analyzing, looking for lies." "And have you found any?" "I don't know, Mom. He answers everything I ask, but he always takes a little while before answering, as if he's thinking of the right answer, or as if he's surprised by such unusual questions." Elizabeth pondered. "Olivia, you need to decide what you want to do. You can't spend the rest of your life distrusting every word your husband says." "I know. But how can I find out if he really loves me or if he's still acting?" "Maybe the answer is in his actions, not his words." "What do you mean?" "Think about what he did for you in these 2 years. Not what he said, but what he did," Elizabeth suggested. "Actions lie less than words." After she hung up, Olivia kept thinking about her mother's advice. What were Ethan's actions in these 2 years? She tried to remember specific moments, situations where he had shown love through actions, not words. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, Please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. She remembered the time she had a stomach virus, and he spent 3 days taking care of her, bringing food, medicine, keeping her company even though he risked getting sick too. She remembered her grandmother's birthday when he left work early to help with the preparations, even though no one asked him. She remembered the time she had a fight with a friend, and he spent hours listening to her vent, giving sensible advice. Were these the actions of someone who really cared, or of someone very dedicated to keeping up a charade? The next day, during a boat tour, something happened that made Olivia question her suspicions even more. They were visiting Dolphin Bay when a child on the boat got sick. The parents panicked and the guide didn't know what to do. Ethan immediately offered to help. It turned out he had first aid knowledge and managed to calm the child down until they reached the port, where an ambulance was already waiting for them. The parents thanked him emotionally. "How did you know what to do?" Olivia asked later. "I took a first aid course when I worked as a tour guide," he explained. "You never know when you might need it." "You never told me you worked as a tour guide. It was a long time ago when I was in university. I needed to pay for my studies," he said naturally. It was another detail about his past that she didn't know. How many other things were there about his life that she didn't know? And if she didn't know about his past, how could she be sure about his intentions? That night, during dinner, she decided to try a different approach. "Ethan, tell me about your childhood." "My childhood?" He seemed surprised by the change of subject. "Yes. We've grown together these 2 years, but I realize I know little about your past." "There's not much to tell. Simple family, lower middle class. My father was a bus driver. My mother was a seamstress. I grew up in Queens." "And your friends? Ryan and Jason are from there too?" "Yes. We met in high school. We were the 3 Musketeers," he laughed. "Always together, supporting each other." "Supporting how?" "The way friends do. When one was sad, the others would comfort him. When one needed money, the others would help. When one had a crazy idea, everyone would go along with it." The last phrase caught Olivia's attention. Crazy idea. Could the bet have been one of those crazy ideas? What kind of crazy ideas? Oh, teenage stuff. Jumping the school fence to skip class, crashing a party without an invitation, things like that, he said, but his expression became more closed off. "And after you were teenagers, did you still have crazy ideas?" "Olivia, why so much interest in my friends?" He dodged the question. "Just curious. They're your best friends. I'll be spending time with them for the rest of my life." "That's true." He seemed to accept the explanation. "Well, as we grew up, the crazy ideas became fewer. Everyone went their own way in life." "But did you still support each other?" "Of course. Always. Even when one person's decisions weren't the best?" Ethan looked at her more carefully. "Olivia, are you trying to get somewhere with these questions?" "No. I just want to know the man I married a little better." "You already know me. Weren't these 2 years enough? We know people by the difficult times we go through with them, and the 2 of us haven't faced any real hardships yet. And I hope we never do," he said, taking her hand. "But what if we do? How would you react if we had a serious financial problem, for example?" "Olivia, seriously, where are these worries coming from? Is your family having money troubles?" he asked, and for the first time she noticed a hint of anxiety in his voice. "Not that I know of." "Why? Would that worry you?" "It would worry me because it would worry you," he answered quickly, a very diplomatic answer again. "And what if you were the one with financial problems, if you lost your job, for example?" "I'd look for another one. I've always managed on my own," he said more firmly. "And me? Would I help you?" "Of course you would help. You have a generous heart." "Would you accept my help?" Ethan hesitated. "It would depend on the kind of help. Financial help." "Olivia, why are we talking about this? It's making me uncomfortable." "Uncomfortable? Why?" "Because it feels like you're testing me somehow, and I don't like feeling tested by the person I love." His answer sounded genuine, and it also made Olivia feel guilty. He was right. She was constantly testing him, but how could she do differently when she couldn't trust? "I'm sorry, you're right. I shouldn't keep asking these questions." She apologized. It's all right. I just want you to know that you can count on me for anything. And I hope you know that I love you regardless of anything else. Regardless of anything else. Including money. Olivia wanted to believe it, but the words of Ryan and Jason still echoed in her mind. On the 8th day of their honeymoon, something happened that completely changed Olivia's perspective. They were on the beach when a man approached Ethan. "Ethan? Ethan Parker?" the man asked. "Yes," Ethan replied, but he didn't seem to recognize the man. "I'm Brian from the East Coast Adventures travel agency. We worked together a few years ago." "Brian, of course," Ethan smiled, remembering. "How are you?" "Good, man. I heard you got married. Congratulations." Brian looked at Olivia. "This must be the wife." "Olivia," she introduced herself. "Nice to meet you." "Man, I'll never forget what you did for me back then," Brian said to Ethan. "Oh, it was nothing." Ethan became embarrassed. "How was it nothing? You lent me $5,000 when I was desperate, without even asking when I'd pay it back. If it weren't for you, I would have lost my house." Olivia looked at Ethan, surprised. He had never mentioned this loan. "And you paid it back after 6 months, remember?" Ethan tried to downplay it. "I did, but you never even asked for it. You never even mentioned the money. Man, you saved my family back then." After Brian left, Olivia became thoughtful. "Why did you never tell me about that loan?" "I didn't think it was important. $5,000 is not a small amount of money. It was what I had in my savings at the time. He needed help, so I helped," Ethan said naturally. "And what if he hadn't paid you back?" "Well, I would have been out $5,000, but he was a friend in trouble." Olivia was impressed, lending $5,000 without any guarantee, without even asking for it back afterward. Was it the gesture of a genuinely generous person, or someone who already planned to have access to a lot more money soon? That night, she was more confused than ever. Every time she thought she had Ethan figured out, he would do or say something that surprised her. "Ethan," she said when they were lying in bed. "You are a good person." He turned to look at her. "Why do you say that like it's a discovery?" "It's not a discovery. It's a confirmation." "Confirmation of what?" "That I married the right person." He smiled and kissed her. "I'm the one who married the right person." But even in that tender moment, Olivia couldn't completely relax. The words of Ryan and Jason still haunted her. On the 10th day, they took a trip to Lookout Mountain. The climb was steep, but the view from the top made all the effort worthwhile. They were alone at the summit, watching the whole island stretch out below them. "It's so beautiful," Olivia sighed. "You are more beautiful," Ethan said, hugging her from behind. "Ethan, do you really love me?" "Why do you keep asking that?" "Because I need to know. Isn't it enough that I show you every day? Sometimes people show what the other person wants to see." Ethan made her turn to look at him. "Olivia, what's going on? Since our wedding, you've been acting strange, asking questions you never asked, doubting things you never doubted. Did something happen that you haven't told me about?" This was the moment. She could tell him everything right there. She could talk about what she heard, about her suspicions, about her pain, but at the last second she lost her nerve. "Nothing happened. I think it's just insecurities." "Insecurities about what?" "About deserving to be loved." "Olivia," he held her face in his hands, "you deserve all the love in the world, and I am the luckiest man on the planet to be able to give that love to you." The words were beautiful, but Olivia's heart remained divided. "Promise me you will always be truthful with me?" "I promise," he said without hesitation, "even if the truth might hurt me." Ethan hesitated for a second. "Why would I hurt you?" "I don't know. I'm just asking for a promise." "I promise I will always be truthful with you," he said finally. But that 1-second hesitation was noticed by Olivia, and it left her even more unsettled. On the plane back to New York, Olivia tried to organize her thoughts. 15 days observing Ethan up close. 15 days asking questions, testing his reactions, looking for signs of falseness. And what had she discovered? That he was generous, helping a friend without guarantees. that he was helpful, taking care of a sick child on the boat, that he was thoughtful, planning romantic surprises for her, that he was affectionate, always concerned with her well-being. But she had also discovered that he always hesitated when asked about their past, that he avoided certain conversations, that he seemed uncomfortable when the topic was money. Were these signs of guilt or just of a man surprised by his wife's unusual questions? When they arrived in New York, Ethan was excited to get back to their routine and start their married life. They were going to live temporarily in Olivia's house in the Beacon Hill neighborhood until they found a place of their own. "It's going to be strange sharing the same roof every day," he joked as they unpacked their bags. "A good strange," she replied, trying to sound cheerful. "Olivia, I want our life to be transparent, you know. No secrets between us." The phrase took her by surprise. "No secrets?" "Yes. I want us to be a couple that talks about everything, that hides nothing from each other." "Do you have any secret you'd like to share with me?" she asked, testing him again. Ethan stopped unpacking and looked at her. "Olivia, you have to stop with these questions. You're making me paranoid." "Paranoid why?" "Because it seems like you think I'm hiding something terrible from you." "And is there?" "No," he answered firmly. "My only secret is how much I love you, and that one I tell you every day." Olivia wanted to believe it, she really did, but she couldn't forget the words she had overheard on the wedding day. That evening, during dinner, Elizabeth called. "How was the honeymoon, my dear?" "It was good, Mom. Hawaii is truly paradise." "And how are things between you two?" "Complicated," Olivia admitted, looking around to see if Ethan was nearby. He was in the backyard watering the plants. "Are you still thinking about that matter?" "All the time, Mom. I can't stop." "Olivia, you need to make a decision. Either you talk to him about it, or you try to forget and move on." "How can I forget?" "It's not about forgetting. It's about choosing to believe in the man he has shown himself to be these past 2 years, not in bits of a conversation you overheard. But what if he really has been deceiving me all this time? And what if he hasn't? What if you are destroying a marriage that could be happy because of a suspicion?" Elizabeth retorted. "Do you think I'm overreacting?" "I think you are suffering unnecessarily, and making him suffer too, even without him knowing why." Olivia knew her mother was right. Ethan had started to notice her change in behavior. Several times she had caught him looking at her with a confused expression, trying to understand what was happening. "Mum, how can I find out the truth?" "By talking to him. Directly. And if he lies, then at least you will have tried." "But Olivia, if you don't trust him enough to have an honest conversation, perhaps the problem isn't the bet you overheard." Her mother's words hit her like a slap. It was true. If she couldn't trust Ethan enough to even talk about her fears, what kind of marriage could they have? That night she decided she would tell him everything the next day. She couldn't stand living in uncertainty any longer, but fate had other plans. The next morning, as Ethan left for work, Ryan showed up at the house. Olivia answered the door in her robe. She wasn't dressed yet. "Hi, Olivia. Sorry to come by so early. Is Ethan here?" "He just left. Didn't you know he went back to work today?" "That's right. I forgot. Can I come in? I wanted to leave something for him." Olivia hesitated, but she let Ryan in. He seemed nervous, restless. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Yeah, I'm fine. It's just—" He hesitated. "It's a bit of an awkward situation." "What happened?" "Olivia, can I talk to you about something? Friend to friend?" "Of course." Ryan took a deep breath before continuing. "It's about that matter we discussed at the wedding." Olivia felt her blood run cold. "What matter?" About how Ethan met you, about the bet." She tried to keep her expression neutral, but she knew she had paled. "What bet, Ryan?" "Olivia, you don't know?" He seemed surprised. "I thought he would have told you by now." "Told me what?" Ryan realized he had made a serious mistake. "Never mind. It's not important." "Ryan, you mentioned a bet." "What bet?" Olivia insisted, pretending not to know anything. "Olivia, I can't." "It's not my story to tell. If it involves my marriage, it's my story too." Ryan looked visibly uncomfortable. He started pacing back and forth in the living room. Look, maybe it's better if you talk to Ethan. Talk about what? Ryan, you're scaring me. I didn't mean to scare you. I meant to... Ah, damn it. I shouldn't have said anything. But you did. Now tell me everything. Ryan looked at her for a long moment, debating internally whether he should continue. Olivia, you have to promise you won't do anything crazy. What crazy thing would I do? I don't know. Fight with him? Ask for a divorce? Who knows? The word divorce hit Olivia like a bolt of lightning. So there really was something serious enough for Ryan to think about divorce. Just tell me, Ryan. 2 years ago, when Ethan was going through a bit of a rough patch financially, Jason and I sort of challenged him. What do you mean, challenged him? We said he complained a lot about being broke, but didn't do anything to change the situation. Then one day, sitting at a bar, we saw you on television, in a news report about the Heritage Foundation. Olivia remembered that report. It was right after she took over the coordination of the family's social projects. And then Jason joked, said that if Ethan really wanted to sort his life out, he just needed to win over a rich heiress. It was a joke, you understand, just a drunk joke. And Ethan found the joke funny? At first he laughed along, but then he got a bit serious and said that maybe it wasn't such a crazy idea after all. And you two supported this idea? Ryan lowered his head, ashamed. We made a little bet with him, $500 each. We bet that he wouldn't even be able to get close to you. And he accepted the bet. He did. But Olivia, you have to understand, it was just a joke. None of us really believed it would amount to anything. Olivia felt a mix of anger, sadness, and relief. Anger because her worst suspicions were confirmed. Sadness upon discovering that her marriage had begun in such a cold and calculated way, but also relief at finally knowing the whole truth. Continue, she asked, her voice firm. Well, then Ethan started researching you. He found out about your interests, about the social projects, about the events you attended, and that's how he showed up at the Heritage Foundation event. It was. But Olivia, I swear to God, after your first date, he completely changed. How so? He came back from that event talking about you in a way he had never talked about any woman. He was enchanted, in love. He said you were different from everything he had imagined. But he still continued with the bet? No, he wanted to cancel it the next week. He said he didn't feel right deceiving you. But Jason and I didn't let him. Why not? Because we thought he was fooling himself, that you would find out he had no money and would dismiss him pretty quickly. We told him he should continue, at least to be sure of his own feelings. Olivia processed every word. So Ethan had wanted to give up the bet right at the beginning? And he continued. He continued, but against his will. And Olivia, for the first 3 months, he didn't even seem like he was fulfilling a bet. He seemed like a man truly in love. And after the first 3 months? After the first 3 months, he came to talk to us. He said he was hopelessly in love with you, that he wanted to get married, start a family, and that he wanted to cancel the bet for good. And you cancelled it. We did. He didn't even want to take the money when the 6-month mark of the bet passed. He said it wasn't about money anymore, it was about love. Olivia was silent for a few minutes, absorbing everything Ryan had told her. Olivia? Ryan called to her, worried about her silence. Why are you telling me this now? Because yesterday I met with Jason and we talked about your wedding. He said he thought you were acting strange during the reception, a bit distant, and I said that maybe you had heard something on the wedding day. You talked about the bet on the wedding day. We did, in the hall itself before the ceremony. And afterwards we kept wondering if you might have overheard. And why do you think I overheard? Because you were acting strange, asking indirect questions, sort of testing the waters. Ryan was right. She really had been too transparent in her suspicions. Olivia, Ethan truly loves you. Since the first few months. The bet was just the initial push, but the love he feels for you is real. How can I be sure of that? Because I've known him for 20 years, and I've never seen him love anyone the way he loves you. But it started with a lie, Ryan. How can I trust him? Because everyone deserves a second chance, especially when the person has changed, grown, and truly fallen in love. Ryan left a few minutes later, leaving Olivia even more confused than before. Now she knew the whole truth about the beginning of the relationship, but did that make her feel more at ease or more distressed? On one hand, it was a relief to know that Ethan had truly fallen in love within the first few months. On the other hand, it was painful to know that everything had started with a bet, a lie, a charade. When Ethan got home from work, she was in the kitchen preparing dinner. He kissed her as he always did. "How was your day?" he asked. "Interesting," she replied. "Interesting how?" "I had a visitor." "Who came here?" "Ryan." Olivia saw Ethan's expression change immediately. His face became tense, worried. "Ryan? What did he want?" "To talk to me." "About what?" "About you. About us. About how we met." Ethan turned pale. He leaned on the kitchen counter as if his legs had gone weak. "Olivia? You what, Ethan? I can explain." "Then explain." Ethan took a deep breath, preparing for one of the most difficult conversations of his life. "Olivia, it's true that in the beginning I approached you for the wrong reasons." "What reasons?" "For money, for your social position, because I thought you could change my financial situation." Hearing his confession directly was different from hearing it secretly or through Ryan. It was more real, more painful. "Go on," she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "But Olivia, I swear on everything that is holy, that lasted a very short time, only a few weeks. From the moment I started to get to know the real you, I started to truly fall in love." "How can I believe that?" "Because it's the truth. Because I wouldn't need to be here having this conversation if it weren't true. Because I could have kept pretending and you would never have known. You're only saying this because you know I found out." "No, Olivia. I've been trying to tell you since our wedding day. Remember, several times I said I had something to tell you, but you always changed the subject. It was true. He really had tried to talk a few times." "Why didn't you insist?" "Because I was afraid. Afraid of losing you. Afraid that you wouldn't forgive me. And now? Now I have the same fear. But I also know that I can't live with this lie between us." Olivia sat down in the kitchen chair. Her legs were weak too. "Ethan, do you love me?" "With all my soul." "Since when?" "Since the second time we met, when you took me to see the community project in the South Bronx. That day, watching you interact with the children, I saw that you weren't just a rich heiress. You were a special person with a huge heart." "And why didn't you call off the bet right then?" "Because Ryan and Jason convinced me to continue. They said I was fooling myself, that you would dismiss me as soon as you found out about my humble origins." "And you believed them?" "A part of me did. I had an inferiority complex. I thought I would never be good enough for you." "And when did you realize you were wrong?" "On your 27th birthday. When you introduced me to your family as the man you loved. In that moment, I knew that you saw me for who I was, not for what I had." Olivia remembered that birthday. It was when she realized she was in love with Ethan. "And then you called off the bet." "I did. I spoke with Ryan and Jason. I said I wanted no more part of it, that I was hopelessly in love and wanted to build a life with you based on the truth. But you didn't tell me the truth." "No. And that was my mistake. I should have told you right then." "Why didn't you?" "Out of cowardice, out of fear of losing you, because I thought the past didn't matter if the present and future were real." Olivia was silent for a few minutes. Ethan remained standing, anxiously waiting for her reaction. "Olivia, please say something," he begged. "I don't know what to say, Ethan. Say that you forgive me. Say that we can get past this. How can I be sure you won't lie to me again? Because this conversation has taught me how much lying hurts. Not just you, but me too. These last few months, seeing you suspicious, asking strange questions, I knew I had done something very wrong." "You realized I was suspicious?" "I did, since the honeymoon. And I knew it was my fault." "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I hoped you would come and talk to me. and also because I wasn't sure if you actually knew something or if it was just my impression. Olivia stood up and went to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over New York, painting the sky orange and pink. Ethan, I need some time to think. How much time? I don't know. I need to process all of this. Olivia, I love you. I love you more than I've loved anyone in my life. If you give me a chance to prove it, I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn your forgiveness. It's not about earning, Ethan. It's about trust. How can I trust again someone who lied to me from the very first day? Because the man who lied on the first day is not the same man who is here now. I've changed, Olivia. You changed me. How can I know if that change is real? Because you've lived with me these 2 years. You've seen me in good times and bad. You know my character, my values, my nature. The initial lie doesn't erase all of that. Olivia knew he was right. For 2 years, she had lived with an honest, hard-working, caring man. Could it be possible that all of that was an act? Ethan, I need to be alone for a few days. Where will you go? I'm going to stay at my mother's house. For how long? Until I decide what to do about our marriage. The words hit Ethan like a punch. Olivia, are you thinking about asking for a divorce? I'm thinking about everything, including that. Please don't do this. Don't throw away 2 years of history because of a few weeks of lies at the beginning. Was it a few weeks of lies, or was it 2 years of lies? It was a few weeks, I swear. After that, everything was true. How can I be sure? Because if it weren't true, I wouldn't have told you now. Because if I wanted to keep lying, I would deny everything and say that Ryan is making things up. Olivia recognized that his logic made sense, but the pain of betrayal was too strong. Ethan, I'm going to pack my bags and go to my mother's house. When I decide what to do, I'll let you know. Olivia, don't do this. Let's talk. Let's work this out together. I can't work this out with you right here. I need space to think. How much space do you need? I don't know. Maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks. And if you decide you don't want to be married to me anymore, then at least it will be a conscious decision, not an emotional reaction. Ethan watched her pack her bags with a broken heart. He tried to help, but she asked him not to come near. Olivia, can I say one last thing? What? I made a terrible mistake at the beginning of our relationship, but the love I feel for you is the truest thing that has ever existed in my life. If you give me a chance, I'll spend the rest of my days proving it. Maybe love isn't enough, Ethan. Why not? Because love without trust doesn't work, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again. Olivia Bennett's words echoed through the empty house after she left. Ethan was left alone, wondering if he had just lost the love of his life because of a foolish decision he had made 2 years ago. At Elizabeth's house, Olivia told her mother the whole story. So now, Mom, what would you do in my place? My dear, that's a decision only you can make, but I can help you think it through. How? Tell me, during these 2 years, was there ever a moment when you doubted Ethan's love for you? No, never. Any moment when he did something to hurt you on purpose? No. Any moment when he showed interest in the family's money? On the contrary, he always refused to accept expensive gifts or very luxurious trips. Then tell me, what changed after you found out about the bet? Everything changed, Mum. The way I see our relationship, the way I see him. But did your relationship change, or did only your perception change? Olivia became thoughtful. I think just my perception. Then perhaps the problem isn't what he did 2 years ago, but how you are dealing with it now. Mom, are you defending him? I'm defending both of you. I'm defending a marriage that could work if you overcome this difficulty. How can I overcome it? How can I forget that it all started with a lie? Not by forgetting, by accepting. Accepting that people make mistakes, but they can also redeem themselves. And if he lies again? And if he doesn't? What if you let the fear of a future lie destroy a present love? Olivia spent 3 days at her mother's house reflecting on everything. During those 3 days, Ethan called several times, but she didn't answer. He sent messages that she read but didn't reply to. He sent flowers that she received but didn't acknowledge. On the third day, Elizabeth made a suggestion. "Olivia, how about you talk to other people who know you both?" "What people?" "Your Aunt Margaret, for example, or Father Michael, who celebrated the wedding, or even the employees at the foundation, who have seen you together many times." "What for?" "To get an outside perspective on your relationship. Sometimes when we're too emotionally involved, we can't see clearly." Olivia thought the idea was interesting. She decided to start with Aunt Margaret. Margaret welcomed her niece affectionately and listened to the whole story without interrupting. "What a difficult situation, my dear," she said when Olivia finished telling her story. "What do you think, Aunt?" "I think you are facing one of the most important decisions of your life, and I think there is no right or wrong answer." "What do you mean?" "If you forgive him, and he lies again, you will have learned something about relationships and choices. If you don't forgive him and he is truly a changed man, you will also have learned something." "That doesn't help me much." "Then let me ask you a few questions. During these 2 years, did Ethan make you happy?" "Very much." "Did you feel loved?" "Always." "Did you feel that he cared about your feelings, your dreams, your plans?" "I did." "And now, knowing the truth, do you still love him?" Olivia took a long time to answer. "I do, and that confuses me even more." "Why does it confuse you?" "Because I should be angry with him, I should want revenge, I should never want to see him again." "But do you want to see him?" "I do, and that makes me angry with myself." "Olivia, love isn't something we control with reason. We love despite the person's flaws, despite their mistakes, despite their betrayals." "So you think I should forgive him?" "I think you should follow your heart, but also use your head." "How do you use your head in a situation like this?" "By evaluating if it's worth the risk, by evaluating if Ethan has really changed, by evaluating if you have a chance of building a solid marriage from now on." "And how do you evaluate those things?" "Talking to him again, setting clear rules, creating a plan to rebuild trust." On the fourth day, Olivia decided she was ready to talk to Ethan again. She called him. "Olivia?" His voice sounded hopeful on the other end of the line. "Hi, Ethan, can we talk?" "Of course. Do you want me to come over there?" "No, I'll come to your place." "When?" "Now." When Olivia arrived at his house, she found Ethan visibly worn down. He was thinner, with dark circles under his eyes, and he needed a shave. It was clear he had been through some difficult days. "How are you?" she asked. "Not good. And you?" Confused. They sat in the living room, keeping a safe distance from each other. "Ethan, I need to ask you some questions, and I need you to answer with complete honesty. You can ask me anything. During these 2 years, was there any other time you lied to me?" "No. Only about the beginning of our relationship. Are you absolutely sure?" "Absolutely. Did you ever think about leaving me for my family's money?" "Never. On the contrary, I often felt uncomfortable with the social difference between us." "Why did you feel uncomfortable?" "Because I thought I wasn't good enough for you. That one day you would realize that and leave me. And now, do you still feel that way? Now I know that if you leave me, it won't be because of a social difference. It will be because of a lack of trust. Ethan, if I decide to forgive you, and we stay married, how can I be sure you won't deceive me again?" "You can't be sure, just like I can't be sure that you won't leave me someday for any other reason. Marriage is an act of faith. But your lie broke my faith." "I know. And if you give me a chance, I will spend the rest of my life rebuilding that faith." "How?" "By being transparent about everything, sharing everything with you, proving every day that I deserve your trust. And if I find out you lied again, then you will have every right to leave me. And I won't fight it." Olivia fell silent, absorbing his answers. "Olivia, can I ask you a question now?" "Go ahead. Do you still love me?" "I do." "And can you imagine a life without me?" "I can, but I don't know if it would be a happy life." "Then why don't we try to rebuild our marriage? because I'm afraid of getting hurt again, and I'm afraid of losing you, but sometimes the best things in life require courage. Courage for what? Courage to forgive, courage to start over, courage to believe again. Olivia looked into Ethan's eyes and saw sincerity, regret, love. She also saw fear, fear of losing her. Ethan, if we are going to try to rebuild our relationship, I need to set some conditions. What conditions? Total transparency about everything, past, present, and future. I accept. Couples therapy, so we can learn to communicate better. I accept. And time. It will take time for me to fully trust you again. I have all the time in the world. And patience. I will have days when I will doubt, I will question, I will be afraid. And I will have the patience to reassure you as many times as necessary. Olivia took a deep breath. Okay, let's try. Ethan closed his eyes, relieved. Thank you for giving me this chance. Don't thank me yet. The hard part is just beginning. What hard part? The part about rebuilding our trust, proving we are worth it. We are worth it, Olivia. I'm sure of that. I hope you're right. They hugged for the first time in a week. It was a cautious hug, full of hope but also fear. In the months that followed, Ethan and Olivia worked hard to rebuild their marriage. They went to couples therapy, learned to communicate better, and established new patterns of trust. There were difficult moments. Olivia had crises of trust, nights when she questioned if she had made the right choice. Ethan had moments of impatience, wondering if it would be possible to fully regain his wife's trust. But there were also magical moments, moments when they reconnected, moments when they laughed together, moments when they remembered why they had fallen in love. 1 year after the discovery of the bet, they were more united than ever. The crisis had strengthened their relationship in a way they hadn't expected. You know something, Olivia said one evening as they were having dinner at home. What? Sometimes I think it was a good thing that I found out about the bet. Why? Because it forced us to talk about things we might never have discussed. It forced us to build a stronger foundation for our marriage. You don't regret forgiving me? No. I regret taking so long to talk to you about it. And I regret not telling you from the beginning. But now there are no more secrets between us, right? No secrets, Ethan assured her. And there never will be again. Never again. 2 years later, when Olivia became pregnant with the couple's first child, she knew she had made the right choice. The man by her side wasn't perfect, but he was honest, he was loyal, he was loving. And more importantly, he was a man who had learned from his mistakes and become a better person. During the delivery, as he held her hand and cried with emotion upon seeing his son being born, Olivia was absolutely certain that love was real. It had started the wrong way, but it had transformed into something genuine, deep, and true. Thank you, she whispered to Ethan as she held the baby in her arms. For what? For becoming the man I needed. Not the man I met on the first day, but the man you became. Thank you for giving me the chance to become that man. And as they watched their son sleeping peacefully, they knew they had built something stronger than an initial lie could destroy. They had built a family based on truth, forgiveness, and true love. End of story. And now, dear listener, what did you think of this story of love, betrayal, and forgiveness? Do you think Olivia made the right decision by forgiving Ethan? Have you ever been in a similar situation in your own life? Tell us your honest opinion about this touching story in the comments. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories like this one.